Their fries are fire. Deny that you're a liar. Believe what I say. I worked at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has never approached any hot-button topic with a single ounce of tact. Not now, not ever. And I'm pretty sure they pay their entire PR team in chicken nuggets. And even if that were true, they're underfed to say the least. Now, what I say from now on is completely of my own experience because much like many other franchising companies, employee experiences may vary. Well, that's the elephant in the room, so I guess it's time to talk about Chick-fil-A and the LGBTQ+. If you don't know or have been living under a rock for the past decade, the now CEO of Chick-fil-A made some comments about traditional marriage a few years back. Needless to say, it did not go over well. Now, I wasn't employed at the time of these comments, but yeah, I was there for the fallout. You have to understand, though there were boycotts because of his stance on traditional marriage, his constant donations to anti-gay groups and/or lobbying, which is still happening today, Chick-fil-A was fine. You might ask yourself how? Americans are more in tune with what's going on now because of the media and the like, so how could this have happened? Shouldn't there have been more of an impact? Okay, true, but you forgot two things. Number one, any attack on traditional values often sees conservatives come to the aid of whoever or whatever is being targeted. And number two, I don't think that many people were all that surprised. I mean, like, right? Either way, that's not what this video is about. Just had to get that out of the way because I feel like that would be a topic of contention later. But I do want you to understand that not all Chick-fil-A's are the same. I'm not going to bat for Chick-fil-A. Don't ever think that. You gotta understand, a college student needed that bread and they were a nearby bakery. It should be mentioned that they are individually owned. Therefore, I can't imagine that every single owner had the same mentality as Dan. I'm sure there's a good handful of them that cringe every time the Lord's Chicken gets negative press. But I digress. I think that people want to believe that Chick-fil-A employees are like in real life what they are at their store. No, in fact, many times this is very far from the truth. We're normal people. Many of us have bills to pay and Chick-fil-A makes for a great first job. My home store in particular like to hire out of the local Christian college down the way. That's where they found me. In order to incentivize us to work there, they paid us extra money during peak hours, which was nice. In retrospect, it seems a little unfair, but we were the ones going into mountains of debt, so I don't know. But going to a Christian college or selling Christian chicken doesn't mean that you're not drinking your weekends away or swearing profusely at college football games. Either way, not every my pleasure was our pleasure. That's another thing. I'm sure that other ex-Chick-fil-A employees will tell you this, but the vocabulary never leaves you. To this day, saying "you're welcome" still feels forced. Like, even that just now. There are three parts of almost every Chick-fil-A: the front, the back, and the drive-thru. I worked in all three, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt that working anywhere other than the front might as well have been a punishment. At least for extroverts like me. I actually really liked customer interaction, and I was damn good at it. Plus, I think it made the day go by faster. Drive-thru I have reservations about. I honestly don't even know if it was that bad. I don't really remember. I just have memories of being really, really stressed. And like the idea of having like 4,000 milkshakes and ice cream orders, I might have a panic attack. I don't know. I'm having flashbacks. But the worst part of being in the drive-thru crew was the possibility that you had to go outside. Chick-fil-A implemented this system in which orders were taken outside so that the food would be ready faster. It helped kind of just like make things more efficient. The thing is, it's Florida. It is very, very hot. Nothing more needs to be said. Then there's the back of the house, the kitchen, the dungeon. The reason why I call it that, well, it has to do with promotion. In retrospect, I don't really know why I wanted to get promoted. I just did. See, after months of trying to be a team lead and getting nowhere with anyone, I finally decided to sit down with the director and talk about how I could fast track my way to becoming management. He told me that there weren't actually any spots left in the front, which is contrary to what I was told before I actually started actively trying. So, somebody lied. But he tells me that if I work in the kitchen, then getting promoted would be both fast and simple. Somebody lied. But I took him at his word and I started working back there. Every station back there sucks. At least at a busy store. The only other saving grace is that almost everyone else who works back there is just as cynical as you are. So the banter can get pretty funny back there. But after all of that, after moving to the kitchen, after learning all of the stations, the workflow, coming in early for opening, staying late for closing, learning how to take things apart, learning how to put them back together, deep cleaning everything, after constantly asking for feedback and wanting to learn more and more, I came to the conclusion that they never intended to promote me. Looking back, maybe it was because I lacked a certain amount of perceived maturity. Maybe it's because I didn't talk to the right people. All I can say is no one ever explained to me or offered any semblance of transparency as to why I never moved up. So naturally I left. And even the conversation I had with the director about why I was leaving, she never explained to me what happened. But honestly, despite my tone, I really do remember most of it fondly. Like being the best Chick-fil-A cow in history. And that's facts. You can take that to the bank, because I can't. Like many jobs I've had, it's oftentimes the employees that you work with that make it all bearable. Like the parties we'd have and just get absolutely wasted. And I'm telling you, few groups can party like the folks at Christian Chicken. One of the things that really stuck with me during my training at Chick-fil-A was the idea that everyone has a story, and that is no less true for any of your coworkers. I met Brianna there, and she had been there for like almost a decade by the time that I left. And one of the conversations I had with her early on was like the idea that she'd been there so long, and yet she wasn't like a team leader or shift lead, you know? And she told me that at one point she was, and then she got pregnant. And after her leave, she came back and she wasn't a team lead anymore. They just didn't want her to be a team lead anymore. And they never explained why it is. And see, this is what I'm talking about. It's like this weird lack of transparency there. And it's so weird and so frustrating. Honestly, in her benefit though, like she got to keep the pay difference. So I don't know, maybe it was better for her. The idea that she just didn't have the responsibility of being a shift lead, but she got the pay of being a shift lead. Good, but I don't know. It was just a really weird scenario. Another weird one happened to be my sister. We got my sister a job there, and she got posted in the kitchen on prep, and she was there for 3 days before she quit. The older I get, the more I realize that my sister and I are more alike than I like to admit. And then there's Todd. Let me explain a little bit about how the Chick-fil-A ladder works. See, if you want to own a Chick-fil-A at any point, like you want to franchise one, you have to start as a team member. So you start out as a team member, then you become a team leader or shift lead, whichever one makes more sense to you, and then you become a director. So directors have certain duties. They can be like director of drive-thru, director of front of house, director of kitchen, and you have to be like one of those at least at some point. So you rotate with the other directors. Todd was a special case. The owner of my store, Ron, had a friend whose son was Todd. Yeah. So Todd comes in, he starts as a team member, very, very briefly. Like, I can't even explain to you how short it was that he was a team member before he got promoted to team leader. Okay. He was a team leader almost as short as he was a team member. I really do remember him being a director very, very quickly, and much to like the dismay of like a lot of people, because you have to understand, at Chick-fil-A, the rules aren't always set as for like stores. So like at my store, Ron, the owner, made sure that in order to be a director, you had a bachelor's degree. Like if you didn't have a bachelor's degree, you could never go beyond being a team leader, at least at that store. I don't know, I guess he was doing his friend a favor, and Todd was just like rocketing through the process. It was really, really jarring for a lot of us there, especially the people who were already directors and the people who were already team leaders working toward that, just like seeing him just kind of float through everything because he owns a Chick-fil-A now. I mean, it's a little upsetting because there were people there who I genuinely liked who wanted to own their own Chick-fil-A. And they went through the normal channels. They had to go through all the time it took to get there, and he just kind of yeeted on through. I don't know. And then there's the store's owner, Ron, like I mentioned before. I don't really remember much about him because he wasn't there very often, but I do remember him being very intimidating. The crazy thing is, if you go onto social media or anything like that, or like you see him outside of Chick-fil-A, he's like a big goofball. Like, he's really funny. It's just like when he came into Chick-fil-A, he did not play about that paper. I'm serious. So yeah, that was my first job at Chick-fil-A, you know? It's so strange to look back and think about it all now, you know, with a different perspective, but yeah, no, I still think it was a good time. So my question to you guys is, what was your first job like? Where did you work, and did you leave amicably? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know. I want to know more about you. And of course, thank you for watching.